For a long time, there has been talk about the dark and frightening side of the Hollywood film industry. Numerous conspiracy theories spread across the internet, with rumors suggesting that celebrities such as actors, producers, singers, and directors are part of secret societies that engage in terrible acts in pursuit of fame, success, power, and the elusive eternal youth. Some people believe that these theories are nothing but inventions aimed at defaming celebrities and harming their careers. Others genuinely believe that many of these famous individuals are connected to some form of evil entity or hidden spiritual force. But what happens when these allegations arise from the very depths of Hollywood, with insiders sharing their disturbing experiences involving famous colleagues? These experiences range from involvement in trafficking and sexual exploitation of minors to psychological abuse and even association with satanic cults. In today's video, I will show you a very impactful testimony from actor and director Mel Gibson, who, besides starring in many successful films in the past, became internationally known for directing the movie The Passion of the Christ, which remains the most successful film in portraying the sacrifice and death of Jesus Christ to this day. Mel Gibson recounts that one day, he had a personal encounter with the Antichrist himself, and from then on, his career was ruined. Did this actor truly come face to face with the one who, according to the Bible, will assume power over the earth and dominate humanity during the period of the Great Tribulation? Stay with me until the end because I will tell you about this encounter, what happened to Mel Gibson's career since then, and in the end I will give my opinion on whether this person could be the possible Antichrist. But before we begin, I just ask that you subscribe to my channel. Just click on the subscribe button below the video, and then activate the notification bell, because I want to help you in your walk with God every day, okay? So let's get started. Mel Gibson was born in the United States, and he gained international fame in the late 1970s with the film Mad Max, a low-budget production that captivated the world and elevated the young actor to the scene as one of the great cinema stars. From that moment on, he became one of the most sought-after talents by producers and directors of American films, and ended up acting alongside very famous actors and actresses of the time. In 1987, another successful film came out. Who doesn't remember Lethal Weapon, right? And Mel Gibson's success kept growing. He made dozens of other successful films, lent his voice to animated films like Disney's Pocahontas, among many other successful works. But Mel Gibson's peak was yet to come. In 1996, he won the Oscars for Best Actor and Best Director with the film Braveheart, which tells the story of the battle for Scotland's independence in the 13th century. William Wallace, Mel Gibson's character, enters the battle and falls in love with the fight for his country's freedom after his wife is brutally murdered by the English army. Hollywood and the world expected that from that moment on, Mel Gibson would become one of the greatest names in cinema history, alongside Steven Spielberg, for example. But shortly after, the actor who was loved by everyone began to have his name involved in a series of scandals and controversies related to alcohol use and anger management issues. The strange thing is that despite all the news that gossip channels and magazines published, Mel Gibson continued to appear calm and charismatic in interviews, strolls through the streets, never offending or assaulting anyone. But the scandals kept coming. He was arrested for drunk driving, accused of making prejudiced comments against black people, and allegedly made threats against his ex-wife. And unfortunately, this sequence of negative accusations caused the public's rejection of Mel Gibson to increase dramatically, leading to the actor not being called to participate in any major films anymore. The strange thing is that other Hollywood stars, at the same time, were accused of much worse things, and nothing happened. Meanwhile, Mel Gibson was fading from the Hollywood scene. He even took on some less important roles in a few films at that time, but the media hardly promoted the productions, and cinemas were mostly empty, because for the audience the image that remained of Mel Gibson was that of a drunken, crazy, unbalanced man who hit women and insulted people of other races. And because of that, he didn't deserve a second chance, nor did he deserve to have his side of the accusations heard. And you might be wondering now, but Pastor, why did Mel Gibson go through all this, going from heaven to hell in such a short time? What made him lose control of his life? Yes, without seemingly anything happening? And that's where we come to the topic of this video. In 1998, he gave an interview to an American television channel that sparked the fury of the press and the film industry against the actor. The topic of the interview was the daily lives of Hollywood stars, their contacts, friendships, the people they interacted with and went out to dinner with. And on that occasion, Mel Gibson recounted a strange experience he had during a meeting with actor Christopher Walken, known for films like Sleepy Hollow, Click, and Catch Me If You Can. This encounter between the two actors took place at a hotel in New York, and according to Mel Gibson, it was so frightening that he truly felt he was facing a demon. Let's watch the moment when he begins to talk about this encounter.
I mean, this is a bizarre place. And it doesn't take very long, and I'm sure you've experienced this if you've stayed here for any length of time. And no matter how strong you are, when you come in off the farm with those convictions and a certain line of attack, no matter how strong you are going to be affected by this place. His whole opinion about women on film, from beginning to end, is very brief. He says, women on film, either naked or dead. Both is better. And it's like, whoa, ooh. No, he came to see me on a rooftop in New York. I said, hey, can I talk to you? And he said, sure. And he floated in, sideways, through a crowd of people. He was wearing black. And it was like one of those old vampire movies where they don't walk, but they glide. And he was a dancer, so he has he's very, graceful. Yeah. And he moved sideways, and he just sat down in a chair next to me. And it kind of frightened me. And he's a very smart guy. And we started talking, and I didn't, say much of anything about reading the script, nothing. I just started talking about the Middle Ages, and he began to talk tortures. And we swapped tortures, because I'd read this book on torture. And I tried to recall some of the most heinous things I'd ever read in this book. And he was like, oh, and he'd try and top it. And my assistant was there, and he left because he couldn't stand it anymore. Yeah. The air had turned cold. And then he left, and I wanted to leave. And because I knew that I didn't want to work with him. Yeah. And he was getting scary. Yeah. And then I turned around, and it was on top of the Peninsula Hotel. I turned around to avoid his steady gaze at one point. Yeah. And I was looking at a building with the top of the sixes on it. So there was a huge illuminated 666 in red. Yeah. And I went from that to that to that, and he started smiling. Yeah. And I thought, oh no, Chris Walken is the Antichrist, When I came over here, I was in my mid-20s. Right. The first time I really came over here. I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on, because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand. Right. And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
They don't.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because a whole place can't be like, Weird Town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them, and they tell you don't go into the house on the hill, and it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like, could it? And then you find out later on the track that you are exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think, Now this is what I mean by actually starting to swim up or downstream with the rest of the salmon. Eventually, if you stay here long enough, you'll find yourself doing that. And you have to, there's a way of doing it without doing it. That takes time. And it takes relaxation. not being uncomfortable, realizing it for what it is,
Projecting.
understanding what it is. Once you understand it, well, then you're not afraid of it anymore, so you can just walk around it and through it, and then get on with what you tried to get on with in the first place. A place like this can humiliate you. And it can humiliate you, it can be humbling. I mean, it does rip your life to pieces.
Does it?
If you'll let it.
Yeah.
Look at this. Did you pay attention when Mel Gibson talked about the red neon number 666, precisely on the day he was supposed to meet Christopher Walken in the middle of that hotel in New York? Another point that draws attention is that Walken smiled when he saw Mel Gibson's reaction to those numbers, because he knew the actor was Christian and always made a point of talking about his faith to people. Perhaps Christopher Walken was mocking Mel Gibson and his beliefs, and that became so clear that Mel Gibson's assistant felt unwell in that environment and had to leave because he couldn't bear the spiritual oppression he was experiencing at that meeting. And after that meeting, Mel Gibson and Christopher Walken never met again, let alone work together on any project. And the worst part is that from then on, everything started to go wrong in Mel Gibson's life for a long time, as you can see. For years, he was accused, judged by the media and by people. And once, actress Whoopi Goldberg publicly defended her friend, saying that he was never racist, as everyone was saying. Mel Gibson's life only began to change in 2004 when he produced the film The Passion of the Christ. He wanted to remind the whole world that Jesus came to earth not only to speak of peace and love. He came with a special mission, to die and sacrifice, so that his message of peace and love would be the only true one and would have the greatest meaning of human redemption. And as I said, no film production in history has managed to portray the biblical prophecy of the Messiah's suffering so well. Look at what the Bible says. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. And the film was a true success, grossing over $600 million at the box office, filling cinemas in the United States and in several countries around the world, and most importantly, bringing thousands of lives to Jesus and rescuing many who were straying from the Lord's path. In light of this, I understand that what Mel Gibson went through in that encounter with Christopher Walken, and in the following years, with all the persecution and injustices, was actually a great spiritual battle. Satan may not have known that God already had plans to use Mel Gibson to make a film about Jesus' sacrifice, because he doesn't have the power to predict the future, but he knew that man feared God, and he really wanted to be used by him in a powerful way. That's why the enemy used all his weapons to try to destroy Mel Gibson and frustrate the plans of the Lord. But at no time did God abandon him, and victory came, so much so that now Mel Gibson is completing the sequel to his film, which will be called The Passion of the Christ, Resurrection. And actor Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus, said that this will be the greatest film in world history, and that everyone involved is already facing a lot of spiritual attacks during filming. And now I want to give my opinion about Mel Gibson thinking that Christopher Walken was the Antichrist. Brothers and sisters, I honestly don't agree with him. I don't think that, at the time, Mel Gibson had a biblical idea about the real characteristics of who this man would be, and due to a lack of knowledge of the Word, he made that statement. The Word of God says that the Antichrist will be a very powerful and influential man, a charismatic and very articulate being in the fields of politics and religion, and he will deceive people and compel them to worship him. Christopher Walken is a man known in the world of cinema, and he has the respect of Hollywood, and that's it. But I do believe that he may have been used by Satan in that meeting with Mel Gibson to try to spiritually attack him. But that doesn't make that actor a fallen angel, much less one of the beasts of the apocalypse, okay? If you like this message and this video, share it with your friends and family and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. May God bless you powerfully.